Hello, everyone. Today I have the privilege of connecting with Stephanie Silva, one of our amazing contributors. She is a somatic sex, intimacy, and relationship coach and the founder of Awaken Arousal. She works on sensual wellness as a practice dedicated to helping people feel safe, satisfied, and liberated in their love lives, which is amazing. It's going to be a great topic today. And through her work, she supports clients in deepening pleasure, intimacy, and emotional connection, both within themselves and in their relationships. And she draws her expertise from the Somatica method, feminine embodiment, and her own personal evolution, as she is definitely a gift for guiding others through this transformative growth. And today we're here to talk about her article, and we have tons and tons of questions. So welcome, Steph.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here today and yeah, excited to dive into the world of pleasure and intimacy, safety, and sensuality with you today. And yeah, it's gonna
Me
be
as
fun.
well. Me as well. And we're doing this differently. Here at Sovereign, we meet everyone where they're at. And you said, I don't really feel like I can express what I do in that short period of time when we record a podcast. So I said, sure, let's do something longer and live so that everyone can join if they prefer. And so this is what we're doing. We're trying something new, and this is going to be a new experience for me, but although we do podcasts all the time, but it's also going to be a new experience for you. Really branching out into a lot of different questions. And we did discuss what we wanted to talk about, but I intuitively go wherever I'm guided. So let's give the audience a little bit of a background about what you wrote about, and then let's see where we go, because I know a lot of people have questions. I know I do, and we're going to talk about them all. So
Yeah.
in your article, Where Safety Meets Passion, the love story that begins within, you really share this journey. We can call it a healing journey, a self-discovery journey, about how to hold yourself differently and how you found the foundation of love through meeting your fiance. And you describe that your lonely marriage and embracing an identity that didn't feel aligned to you really awakened within you this new sense of love and trust for yourself. So maybe for those who haven't read your article yet, you can explain, what inspired you to write this and where it all comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. When I started reflecting on the theme of comfort and flow, I was really just brought back to and started to reflect on a really big period of transition in my life, which was period of time between exiting the marriage that I was in that was emotionally vacant and passionless, and kind of transitioning into at this time, I also was coming out and had recently been diagnosed with ADHD. And so it was kind of a lot at once. And I had a chance during in this transition period to really get to know myself. I had been in long-term partnerships for a long time, just two kind of back to back. And this was a period of time where I really began to unravel a lot of conditioning and, yeah, just get to know myself in a new way and learn to be with myself and really developing trust and safety that no matter what big life transition, change, challenge came my way, that I would be able to have that safety within to be able to persevere and build resilience through the challenges. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of
You
like the base.
yeah, you talked about like safety and it kind of being the foundation for us exploring intimacy and all of that. So, in your journey, what led you to connect this importance of safety and sensuality and intimacy? Because And I'm always very transparent as a sexual assault survivor and all of that. Like, I don't know if I've ever connected safety and intimacy together
Mhm.
until I read your article, right? So, at what point did that really come together for you, that connection?
For me, I would say it was when I started dating my partner, my now partner. Because I had never experienced a level of emotional safety within a partnership that had allowed me to explore sexually. A previous version of me was very quiet in the bedroom and also in terms of being able to actually express needs, desires, wants. And yeah, it wasn't until I was in a relationship that felt safe and I had that safety also within myself and trust that I not only knew what I wanted, but I was able to express it and not be met with rejection or defensiveness for wanting something different or um yeah, I guess yeah, makes
So
sense.
that leads me to a really interesting question. I always go intuitively where we're
Yeah.
going because I feel like it fits. So, with your previous relationships, now with your partner, you feel really safe
Mhm.
and you feel able to express yourself and express your desires. So, do you feel that that was more of an acceptance from that end versus your previous partners, not allowing that? Or do you feel like it was a shift within you?
I would say it's definitely a little bit of both.
Hmm.
So, like a small example, like I mentioned, I used to be very quiet. So, when my partner and I very first started dating, and this is kind of like I'm a bit shy talking about it, but
Yeah.
it was like maybe our first or second time together intimately, and my partner was like, I didn't even know you came. And it's embarrassing to talk about in some ways, but also I know that I'm not alone in that.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until there was like a bit of a spotlight on it and I was able to reflect on it. So partly it was my partner encouraging me to be open and allow my voice to be heard. And it was also up to me as well to accept that and accept that, this is new for me and it's going to take some practice and like dipping my toe into something new. And it was awkward at first. And but now I there's no filter, it's it's all about it. It helped lead me into a place where I was able to soften and surrender, because that's really what it comes down to, is being able to fully surrender, release all inhibitions, and really just express.
Yeah. So with the work that you do, so this is more from a side of your coaching aspect. So when somebody's in a relationship where they don't either know how to or feel that they can soften and surrender and have these amazing vocal orgasms or whatever, um, what like how do they approach that? How do you start to deconstruct that with them so that they can feel that they're able to do that? Because let me back up just a smidge. So hold on to that question for a second. When I was reflecting upon us talking today, I was, of course,
Yeah.
thinking of myself and how I grew up. And I grew up in a very openly sexual household. I mean, Playboy was on the TV. Of course, they didn't want me to watch it or anything like that. Magazines were around, sex toys, all that stuff. Very, very openly sexual family. It was joked about, it was not taboo, but I am very, very prude. if you will. I've gotten better as time has gone on, but
Mhm.
I am none of that. None of that has ever been in my household. It's never been any of that. And I'm very open about that.
Yeah,
And it's not that I think it's disgusting or anything. I just was looking at my life and how I grew up, and I'm the complete opposite, right? So
yeah.
when I think about somebody who's in a relationship, I'm like, how did that formulate within me when it was so open, right? And
Yeah.
so then it became, well, it must have been something with me and my husband. We've been together actually in a couple of days, 19 years married, almost 25 years together. So there must have been something within our relationship that created our way of being together, right? So how
Mhm.
do you start to deconstruct that with your clients? How do you give them the permission to forget about the dismissing or the overriding that they've done with some way that they prefer to be?
I would say if like there's a desire to maybe make a change in the situation. Well, first of all, I wanted to say sometimes when you have like, I'll call it too much of something, growing up, yeah, you can often like go the opposite direction.
Yeah.
That's very common. Um, but when it comes to helping a client like kind of unravel or deconstruct and maybe find more balance, I'll call it, in whatever it is that they're looking for, I would say I would help guide them into their body with somatic practices. Really helping a client slow down and begin to tune into what is going on in the body because I'm definitely someone who lives in the brain, and it takes some pretty conscious effort to dive into the body and a lot of practice. So I always like to say that to people as well. If you are a brain person, which a lot of us are, give yourself grace as you're kind of going on the journey of learning to listen to your body again, because it does take time. But that is something that I would help a client through is really helping them like breathe into any feelings and sensations that come up when we're talking about a specific topic. Asking about like what age that particular feeling is. And maybe that helps bring in some somatic feelings related to something that happened in the past or something that is unresolved. And yeah, just helping people dive into whatever comes up and being there and holding hands as we go through it. And yeah,
Yeah. Do you feel that when somebody is on this journey of untangling their stories or their way of being towards a more preferred or aligned way of comfort and flow and pleasure, do you recommend that they start doing it themselves, like privately with somebody like yourself, or do you recommend like speaking to their partner? And then the next question I had was like, do you talk to them like outside of the bedroom or inside? Like when it's all happening, like do you show them like how do you like approach all these subjects? Because I feel like so many people are like, oh, like don't talk about that or don't
hmm,
express or don't say this or I might be too much or that's not enough. And so it's such a taboo subject for us to talk about. I would love for us to like get down into the nitty-gritty of like deconstructing how we feel about it.
absolutely. I would say always start with your connection to yourself. It's really important to understand your own, whether it's needs, capacities, boundaries, pleasure, like what sensations you enjoy and not enjoy. It's important to kind of figure that out, whether it is through a practitioner or just taking time every day with yourself. Just getting to know your body again. And that in and of itself is going to start establishing safety within yourself. And from there, and it can be a dual approach. You don't have to do one for a certain amount of time and then move on and bring your partner in, like you can work with your partner at the same time. Be like, hey, babe, this morning I took 5 minutes to myself and I practiced different types of touch on my body. And I realized that I really enjoy a firm, like grasping touch on my arms. And I would love it if you massaged my shoulders before we even think about taking our clothes off, you know? Like that's a little example of maybe something you can discover on your own, or if you already know you enjoy it, to relay it clearly and concisely to your partner or your sexual partner. And hopefully, if there's the safety is established, it's well received and that partner wants to be a co-creation in your pleasure.
Hmm.
Co-creation.
When you're working with your clients, I kind of want to go into like maybe the wounds and the fears women carry. So you mentioned like grasping an arm firmly, right? So if somebody doesn't even know what they like, you recommend like starting to touch their body. So do you recommend like exploring your body even further? Like maybe you don't even know what you want down there either. So do
Yeah.
you recommend that kind of stuff?
Yes. Yeah. So something that I like to have my clients call it homework, call it practices to take home, whatever you want to call it, is conscious self-exploration. So in this practice, I encourage my clients to set up a time just for themselves. This isn't something that I would directly guide someone through. There's another practice that I guide people through with it. It's not really connected directly to genitals. It's just kind of an all over body um, touch practice that I love guiding my clients through that one. But this one in particular is a take home. And yeah, you would set up a space for yourself that is enjoyable to you. So that could be soft blankets, could be light music, soft lighting, whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable and safe, and make sure you have enough time to give yourself, and yeah, explore different types of touch on your whole body with a focus on your genitals. And yeah, really just taking that time for yourself and exploring what feels good, what it feels like a no. And I wouldn't like start with this practice right off the bat. This would be like something kind of a little further down the line in the journey. um I think that's another like misconception about my work too, is that we dive like right into I'll call it the nitty gritty. We often start way before that. Um, I always meet people where they're at. So just typically the clients that I attract move a little bit slower in that. And that's great. I love that. I love starting from a place of just foundational embodiment
Yeah.
and yeah, helping people bridge that gap between the mind and the body. And then we slowly transition into more of a sensual embodiment. And then we transition into sexual embodiment kind of in the final stages. So,
I
yeah.
love this so much because so much of it, I think we forget, right? We just kind of want to hop to the
Yeah,
physical stuff, right?
absolutely.
And we forget about all the things that got us there. And what I'm understanding, and I'm going to reflect back to you what you said, which is the deconstruction of our stories, our wounds, our shame, our beliefs around sexuality, safety, all of those things, physical intimacy, what does it mean? Also, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from you just throughout our time together over these last few months is just how often we silence just our voice and being able to share what we desire. I think that for me was the biggest revelation of, you know, just being able to say, like, I prefer this or I prefer that firmer touch, like you were talking about, is so hard. It's
It
so
is.
hard. And Where do you start with that? Like how do you help women just be able to, at a minimum, share their desires?
So I would probably start talking about conditioning that we have as female-bodied individuals. We are taught in direct, indirect ways that our pleasure doesn't really matter. It's it's all about the other person. Like you are to please somebody else. It's really deeply in our conditioning. And so that is where I would start is helping unravel some of that. And another thing that I'm really discovering and have brought into the book club as well is women typically are not allowed to have an opinion, or historically have not been allowed to have an opinion. And so this is generationally felt in all of us. And so, yeah, even something as small as having an opinion on the touch that you receive is not something that's allowed. And so, yeah, I would start with that, go into the body somatically, see where it's living, give it some time, sit with it, and go from there with a client and wherever that takes us. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, how does somebody know where something is living within the body? Like like what's that process look like?
So this is a like the foundation of the work that I do. So I love guiding people through breath. So I would help a client settle into their body, usually beginning with a breath work practice. There's a few different ones that I like to start with. And then from there, once there's the connection to the body, it's up to you to listen as the client to kind of see like where that feeling lives. So it could be, for example, like a tightness in the chest. It could be what's happened to me before is like I feel like a almost like a tingly, restless sensation in my feet. And from there, we kind of it brings up memories that live in your body that your mind just has either overridden or maybe yeah, conditioning has come in and helped you forget certain things that are true within your body and yeah, so helping people somatically connect and bringing in the embodiment.
And once they can identify, okay, it's in my feet or in my chest, where do they go from there? Where do you usually take them from there?
So it's really important to kind of sit with the feelings that come up. Um, I know from personal experience, it's hard for me when I'm just on my own to just sit with a feeling. I have been practicing for a while now, but being guided into it and being witnessed in it is really special. And so that's something that I would help the client with as well, is really sitting with and whether emotions come up, you know, if there are tears, if there's laughter, really celebrating whatever comes up. And this is going to be another building block towards this client developing that connection to the body, which then helps connect to safety and building trust and living life, experiencing in relationships and intimacy like an authentic experience. Um, yeah, really just pulling all of that together over time.
Yeah.
One experience adds up to the next experience. And
So once somebody has established this, inner knowing of what their body feels like, maybe where it's stored, maybe what they're actually desiring versus what's been conditioned into them. Um, I shouldn't say I often, my daughter and I had a really interesting conversation
Mhm.
with her grandmother was there with me. And we were just talking in general about sex, and she's almost 14, so it's the perfect time to start approaching these things.
Mhm.
And we were both sharing that our first times weren't anything like how people portray it, right?
Yeah.
And so we were just sharing with her what that was like for each of us. And we were just saying that, when it's a really perfect moment, I didn't want to say it had to necessarily be planned, but when you've thought about something for a long time, and it's a mutual agreement versus like the heat of the moment, right? And you've
Mhm.
thought about your body and how would you like it and these types of things. And of course she's like la 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 la, she doesn't want
Yep.
to hear any of this.
Yeah.
you know, but I shared with her that I was like, you know, unfortunately, it is her father. I was like, Dad and I were together. And she was like, I don't want to hear it. I'm like, but I need to share with you,
Yeah.
that these
Oh.
things happened and like it didn't happen like the movies portray it. And,
Mhm.
that I won't share the gory details, but there were some things that happened for me physically that I was like, should I go
Mhm.
to the hospital? Should I not go to the hospital? Like, what's going on here?
Okay.
And, but it's important to share that it's not what everybody sees out in the world. And my husband and I
Mhm.
often joke about how oftentimes we've heard that pornography uses a lot of pills and lubricant and things to make things last longer, and that it's
Mhm.
not like true life, right? And how in the bedroom, true life can look differently. And
Yeah.
so when we've kind of deconstructed all of that conditioning of what it's supposed to look like based on what
Mhm.
society has said versus what we desire it to look like in the bedroom, right? We might
Mhm.
have a different preference for what that might look like.
Yeah.
Some people might want it in the shower, some people
Mhm.
might want to use toys or whatever that might be.
Mhm.
Then that's where I think the word that's coming to mind for me is permission. Permission, like I feel like you're giving us all permission to create the scenes that we desire, understand what it's like in the body and what we are preferring,
Mhm.
permission to use our voices and express things, right? And so what came to mind? So there is a question to all of this. I'm like rambling right now
That's okay. I
because
love
I
it.
too have ADHD. You know this
Yeah.
about me. My brain just goes in all sorts of crazy ways. But what, how, I don't know if you've had a client who's had this question, but let's say I'm in the mood, right? And I say to my husband, like, hey, do you want anything tonight?
Mhm.
And he's like, oh gosh, I'm just like really tired. And there's that rejection piece, right? How do you share with your clients who've like done all this work to start to use their voice and then they use their voice that they're interested and then there's that rejection piece that comes in. How do you like what do you recommend in those types of things?
Yeah, no, I totally understand that because it's happened to me before. I think it's happened to most of us.
Yeah.
Well, I would normalize, first of all, that everyone has a different level of desire, and it's a pretty like wide, broad spectrum. And so, first of all, I want to normalize that it's okay to not be on the exact same page desire wise as your partner at all times. That is not realistic. And that is something that has kind of been conditioned into us since childhood, watching movies and just, yeah, it's just expected, I'm in the mood, you must be in the mood. But that's not reality. So that would probably be the first step is to normalize that. It's okay to be on different sides of the spectrum at different moments. And next, I would probably just speak to the fact that if your partner is tired or isn't in the mood, it's not really about you. So, this is where the trust and the safety within the self becomes really important. Knowing that it's not a personal attack, even though it feels like rejection in the moment, and that is very valid, and learning to expand the capacity to accept that rejection from time to time. Now, if it becomes a regular thing, then that would be something that the couple would need to kind of come together and have more discussions around. So, if it were happening quite frequently, I would practice with my client having conversations around what feelings come up when that rejection happens and how to calmly express from a place that is very present and grounded how to, I guess, come together in that initiation practice, and how both parties can be satisfied over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I realized I kind of glossed over something in the beginning, and I would love to go back to it only if you feel comfortable sharing. If not, we'll just move on to the next subject. And you know me, I never feel weird about somebody speaking their truth.
Mhm.
But you had mentioned that part of your awakening to yourself was when you decided to come out. And when was that period in time when you realized that, and I might be putting words in your mouth, so please
Yep.
correct me, that what you were desiring wasn't in a man? Like, when were you able to finally say, like, I can finally speak my truth and my desires, and what I'm desiring was not my previous relationship?
Mhm. So I guess a little bit about me, I am pansexual. So I actually I still experience a attraction to males. Um, but I don't know, this is kind of a hard question because there's not really like one sort of, it's kind of it was just so slow, I want to say. It's hard to kind of like pinpoint a particular moment. And also the reason why I left my marriage wasn't for that reason
Yes,
alone.
of course.
There were so many other things.
Mhm.
And really, it was when it ended that I was able to, okay, well, I'm single now. I'm able to do what I want. And I took that time to explore, and then it was confirmed for me physically and emotionally that, wow, I have a lot of capacity and I have a lot of attraction to women as well. And yeah, it was a very slow but fast journey. I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe for me.
Yeah, no, I can definitely understand that. It's almost like being released from the story and reality that you have opened up this whole new chapter in a book for you to be able to start to imagine differently
Mhm.
what, who, how, and all of
Yeah.
those types of things. So, for a woman who is listening today, or men, because men might be listening to
Mhm.
too, what would be some ways that you would suggest? And then we'll open it up to see if anybody has questions. Um, what would be some ways that you would suggest that they can take like baby steps today? I always like little tangible things that people can take away from our podcasts or these types of interviews so that they can begin on this journey with something tangible and small, because not all of us can make a huge leap. And it
Totally. Yeah.
might just be, like you said, in that slowness, which I love that word because so many of us are just flying at like 5,000 miles an hour that I don't
Yeah.
even know if we all know what slowness is, right? We're
Mhm.
always hopping to the end. And so, yeah, what would be a few ways that people could start on this journey of understanding them comfort and flow and pleasure in their body and
Mhm. Yeah, it definitely does come down to slowing down. And I'll give a couple of examples.
we have plenty of time.
So I would recommend beginning with like a really short, just body check-in, whether it's first thing in the morning or maybe right before bed, but just taking a moment to get out of your brain and kind of connect with the starting from the top of your head, going through your body parts all the way to the tip of your toes. And it doesn't take very long, but just noticing, like, okay, my forehead is a little bit like I'm clenching my forehead up there. Like, let's just relax that. Let's relax the jaw and like slowly moving down, like ideally like laying down and really allowing your body to sink into the mat or the bed or whatever it is the surface that's supporting you. Just pausing, taking a moment to breathe in if you feel any tension in specific areas, and noticing if there's any sort of sensation, acknowledging it, and yeah, acknowledging it without any judgments. That's one little kind of practice that I would say is pretty doable, 5 minutes. Other ways that you can introduce that are maybe not like structured, let's just say you're cleaning, whether it's doing the dishes, sweeping, wiping down your surfaces. I used to be like a rapid cleaner, like let's get this done as fast as possible. Like I have things to do. Like I've got to, yeah, get rush to the next thing. Now we slow down. This is part of life, cleaning. It's a part of our lives. Usually unavoidable for the average individual. And so why not make it a little bit more enjoyable? Why are we rushing when, now I have a little bit of a shift there, reframe, I'm devoted to my home. I enjoy my home feeling clean, whatever that means to you. So now if I'm mopping, I used to like end my mopping session with like a sweaty mess because it's just like, let's get this done. And now it's like, okay, no, like just mop normally. So that's another like little practice. Telling myself there's no need to rush through everything and to just slow down, take a moment, and yeah, just breathe.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I just, I was just that sweaty, moppy mess the other day. Oh
It
my gosh.
happens.
I was resisting doing the floors and I
Oh,
was like, oh, I just will feel so much better when this is done. And
yeah.
I was like to my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so hot. Is it hot in here? He's like, no. But I was that sweaty, moppy mess. So I'm going to be more intentional about that. I will share the other day, Friday, actually, I had so many things on my to-do list, and I may not be there yet in the chores department, but I am there in most of my life.
Mhm.
Even today, like, I mean, this is a Sunday. It's
Mhm.
typically our family day, but my husband's at the gym and my
Yeah.
daughter's sleeping. I'm totally fine. I'm like chill, like doesn't
Mhm.
feel like work to me, right? But on
Mhm.
Friday, I had so many things on my to-do list. I think it was 6 or 7, all in various parts of the town, from dentist appointments to grocery shopping to picking up some medication and all sorts of stuff. And the day just kind of like naturally flowed by because I wasn't stressed. I was
Mhm.
like so present. And
Mhm.
I did think about it that day. I said, if I had had this amount of stuff, even just 6 or 12 months ago, I would have been a mess. And
Mhm.
I think that through beautiful articles like yours and all of our contributors, I am just learning how to be so much more present. And I
Yeah.
think too, part of what I've learned is I use my voice to myself, my inner critic, so
Mhm.
much more than I used to. I ask myself often, what do I want to do in this moment?
Mhm.
That's where I started. That was my very first question when I started on my journey.
Yeah.
Was I was standing in front, I've told this story many times on our podcast. I was standing in front of the sink doing the dishes,
Mhm.
and I just said, "What do I really want to be doing in this moment?" And I said, "I just want to sit down for 15 minutes." I was so tired, and I did.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
came back 15 minutes later and finished them with ease. But it's giving
Mhm.
ourselves that permission to honor whatever it is. So it's not just in the bedroom, it's every
Yes.
single day of our lives. And I
Mhm.
feel like I'm such a better person to myself, a better mom, a better wife, a better friend because I have slowed down. And I've
Yeah.
often been told, Nicole, how do you do so many things in one day? A psychic has told me I bend time, but I don't know. I don't know if I do or not. She says, stop bending time, Nicole, when we're on the calls together. Because I don't want our calls to end. And she's like, you're
Yeah.
doing it again. Please stop. Please stop. But
Amazing.
I think that I can be more productive because I always say rest equals productivity. I am not afraid to nap. I'm not afraid to say I nap. I take breaks. I
Love
say
it.
no. And so I think this carries over into so many different parts to our lives than just pleasure. Um,
Yes.
and so I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts on that. I was just kind of rambling.
No, thanks for sharing. I appreciate it. And yeah, something did come to mind. So you mentioned giving yourself permission. And that kind of reminded me that we often feel like in your example, like if you were to finish that round of dishes, then you would have earned a 15-minute rest.
Hmm.
But that's just not, that's made up, you know? You don't need to earn rest. So, yeah, it's like recognizing that and then giving yourself permission to put down the thing, sit down. And I have to do this myself all the time too. I'm like, okay, just one more thing, push through. And then it's like, no, it's all good. It'll get done after, and I will do it with more pleasure after I've rested. And that's
Right.
where, yeah, the pleasure ties in. It's like instead of pushing through something when your body is clearly saying, like, I would like to sit down now, or I need some food, or I need to go to the bathroom. And how many times do you just push through instead of honoring what your body is asking for? That slowly erodes the trust in your body, and this is what I help people build back up in order to then experience pleasure in the bedroom. Because, and this is what I meant earlier too, about how kind of you start like a little bit at the beginning, if you will, in like the little everyday actions. And that builds building blocks over time to a point where you're more comfortable in the bedroom and you're able to allow yourself to feel that pleasure and that joy and play. So,
Yeah, it's so funny. Ever since you said, do you ignore this was a while back, you were like, in the little things, like if you ignore when you have to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I do that all the time. And before this call, I didn't really have to go, but I could go. So I did go.
mhm.
And I was like, I'm honoring my body. I'm just going
Yay!
to. Yeah, it's so funny. Well, I want to give a chance to anybody in the audience. If you have like personalized questions, we won't read out your name or anything like that. So if you have an individualized question for Steph here, we definitely can take those. I will say that while we're waiting for those to come in, um, if there was anything else you wanted to share about upcoming offerings you have, how people can connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you'd like to connect with me, my Instagram is at Awaken Arousal. My website is www.awakenarousal.com, and my email is hello@awakenarousal.com. So those are the various ways that I can be reached. I don't have an active launch right now, but my program Liberated Love is open. And this is a program for women, people socialized as women. Um, it's a one-on-one program. It's 12 sessions over the course of 3 months. And this is a program where I go deep with women. We start with establishing safety in the self and unraveling whatever conditioning is currently present, and helping women. And also this is for women in partnership. I have another I can do custom for people that are not in partnership, but Liberated Love is more specifically geared towards women who are trying to bridge a gap in their partnership. And yeah, I help them establish that foundational embodiment and safety, And then that leads into how can we come together in the partnership and really claim and own the pleasure that is their birthright. And yeah,
And one more thing you have. She has an amazing book club. I'm
yes.
part of it. I don't always get to join the calls, but let me tell you, her book club has revolutionized my ability to experience pleasure, to think about pleasure differently, because there's just that imaginative part. Like I said, I don't watch porn or anything like that. So I don't have those things to kind of help me think of different ways. And
Mhm.
so I've loved these books because most of the time the sex things are great. So definitely join her book club. So if you want to, she is in the community.sovereign-magazine.com. You also have a WhatsApp group that's active as well, but you can definitely go there. So we do have a question, which I think is a really good one.
Mhm.
Just for a little background, I am a nurse and a nurse manager, but this is not my role or experience on here, so I won't utilize that part of it. But the question is, I also have ADHD and I have found that I have a lower libido on meds. I don't mind that too much, but the meds are very effective for me. Do you have any advice? So, my first thing that, and I'll let you answer this, is I would love to know your age because if you are in perimenopause, 100% could be hormonal as well. I am 45, I'm in perimenopause. That whole subject is just very challenging at the moment. And so I would love to know your age, and maybe if you have children, and maybe also if you have a partner. So that might be some more additional information for Steph here to help answer that for you. You looking for something, Steph?
Oh, I thought we were going to wait, but no, I
Oh,
can definitely
okay.
start.
So 34 years old, no children.
Okay. Okay. So I would like to say, first of all, libido is a spectrum. Desire is a wide spectrum. So whether it's ADHD, life circumstances, everything impacts your libido. And I always love to share with people that if they don't know already, there's actually two main desire types: responsive and spontaneous desire. And typically, if we're going to live in the binary, which I don't normally live in the binary, but for the sake of this conversation, women are typically responsive and male-bodied individuals are typically spontaneous. That being said, I am a spontaneous. So spontaneous desire is, if I'm going to use like an analogy here, it's kind of like a light switch. It's a top-down approach. I can see my partner with their shirt off, be immediately like, okay, I'm ready for sex. Like it's like a top, my brain says yes, and then my genitals say yes. Responsive desire is the opposite. They respond to conditions and environments that are conducive to, um, I guess, being ready and open to physical intimacy. So that is a bottom up approach and is more like building a fire. So you are going to find the place where you want to start the fire. That's step one. Then you're going to gather some rocks to make a circle. Then you're going to gather the sticks. Then you're going to light the fire and it needs to be tended to. So it's a little bit different than just flipping a light switch. And these are very like general terms and descriptions, but I hope it paints like a
Mhm.
clear enough picture
Mhm.
in understanding the differences between the two types. And so, with that being said, with you as a 34-year-old woman with ADHD, I would say what's going to be really important for you is discovering things that contribute to or hit your gas pedal towards arousal, and at the same time, discovering things that hit your brakes, and also discovering the environments and the types of I guess, transition activities that help you to feel like in a place to receive and lean into pleasure. So that's different for everyone. And this is definitely something that I dive into in initial sessions with clients that I guess would be come to me saying that they feel like they're more low libido.
Mm. Okay, so let me clarify because I think I'm a little unsure if I
Yeah,
grasped that completely.
absolutely.
Are you saying that the two types are libido, or is libido separate from the two types? Or are
Uh,
they the same?
uh,
So like what I'm
they're
imagining for
different,
myself, right?
kind
So
of. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
what I'm imagining is, okay, say I'm spontaneous like you, right? And I see my partner with their shirt off and I'm like, woohoo. So is that libido? Or what if you're spontaneous and you don't have a libido, would that not even get you excited even though you're spontaneous? I think is my question.
I think when we're talking about desire, that is kind of, yeah, it is related to libido. And even though like I get turned on easily, I would say, that doesn't mean I'm immediately jumping into sex either.
Right, right, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we might label ourselves as low libido, I also want to remind people so many other factors from a anatomical, physical, and mental status can affect all of that stress, money,
Yeah.
sleep, just circumstances, interruptions, who's in your
Hmm.
household. I mean, there's so many things that can affect it,
Yes.
hormone levels. I mean, all of that. But I do want to go back to addressing your meds. I won't say who it is just for the sake of her privacy, but I do have somebody in my life who is also ADHD and is also on meds. I am not, because I just have a brain malformation that they found on a CT scan recently, and they were like, "We're not sure if you actually have ADHD because this brain malformation actually mimics it." So that's
Mm.
the only reason I haven't tried it yet, is because they're unsure if meds would even help me. So anyway, that's my rationale for not being on meds. So I don't have my personal experience, but I have this person's personal experience, and she also agrees her meds are very important to her. But she says that she is most awake and most what would be the word? Energetic, if you will, in the
Hmm.
evening times. And
Hmm.
so her meds have worn off, and there's that, right? And
Yeah.
so I think also part of it is finding the right med and timing for you as well, right? And do you have a mismatch there as well? Like, is your med longer acting to where it's maybe prohibiting your natural awareness of like when you might be interested? Maybe it is in the evening. This person's med wears off in about 8 hours, so she can just be productive during the day. So those are things that you can explore as well, is looking at maybe just a slight med change to help in that area, and seeing if that would work. So that would just be my recommendation from a just a regular standpoint, is that there can be other options if pleasure is important to you, and all of those types of things. Are there any follow-up questions anybody might have that we maybe didn't address before we go? That was a really good one.
I did want to add as well, like I've been on meds and I'm not on meds now, and every individual is different. And um, in my practice, while the meds are going to be like a part of the conversation, it is a lot more about that body connection. Because at the end of the day, like I am a true believer, and I feel like it's quite empowering to tell women that the pleasure is in your hands, and you can create environments and conditions that set you up to be able to receive that pleasure. And it's really about learning it. And like you said, Nicole, like when someone comes to me, most people are responsive. We have many, many different discussions. We go into the body and like tap into what feels good. There's a few different things that we'll do to kind of create that, whether it is a physical list or a mental list of what is contributing to that lead up to arousal and what pumps the brakes. And so that's like a really big part of how I help people.
And
And-
it's like riding a bike too, right? Like you have to kind
Mhm.
of relearn how to do everything. You're not just gonna like zoom off right away. You might
Yeah.
have to relearn all the steps that it takes to get to the point where maybe you are spontaneous or
Mhm.
responsive and you now have your tools in your tool shed to help you get there.
Mhm.
Well, this
And
has been,
one
yeah,
last thing I
go
wanted
ahead.
to
Yeah.
mention, just for like information's sake. At the beginning of a relationship and what we would call like the limerence phase, that first like couple months where the hormones are going crazy and you're like super into each other, both people are typically spontaneous. Just saying. So if you could say
Yes.
like, oh, I felt spontaneous before at the beginning, and it's like, well, that's very normal. And once the kind of hormones settle and you've reached that level of comfort with a person, that is when your kind of true desire type is going to rise to the surface. And um, yeah, that's where some people end up feeling like roommates because of the situation. And it's really just because they don't have the awareness that, yeah, there's more than one way to experience desire and arousal. So
That is
just
such
knowing
a
that,
great point because
yeah,
it is always hot and heavy in the beginning, right?
yeah.
I love
Mhm.
that. I love that. Well, this has been such a beautiful conversation, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday to, you know, help us learn more about the different types, about different pleasure, responsiveness, spontaneous. I mean, I've learned so much from this. And I'm just so excited. And if anybody has any questions, you can email her, message her on all of her socials. You can communicate with her in our community platform, community.sovereign-magazine.com. We will be getting the recordings up on YouTube and Substack with clips on Instagram later today. And your magazine comes out today. It is
Yay.
already live on our website, sovereign-magazine.com, if anybody wants to go read it. And yeah, we are super excited. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. I really appreciate all of your thoughtful questions and such a lovely discussion.
Yes, it was. All right, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.